Well, so Ben, what you are supposed to do is, if you haven't attended the class yesterday, the science class yesterday, we organize everyone into little groups, okay, to do the science project. So if you haven't, if you were not there in the class yesterday, the best thing is for you to watch the class online. It is already posted there, and I explain what the project is about and so on. And so if you send me a little email to remind me to assign you to a team. So the reason why I didn't assign everyone to a team is because we have lots of people enrolled in the class, but they are not participating actively. Okay, so they are doing this kind of as a homeschooling class, and they are doing things on their own. So I don't want to, kind of to force everyone or to create a team that would have people that are really not actively participating. Okay, so I'm only going to put in teams those who are actively participating in the class. Does that make sense? Okay. And Alec and Natalie, I couldn't. I assigned Alec to one of the groups. I think that is Alexander Peak, and I couldn't find Natalie. So you probably are both doing with the same account. So if that is the case, both of you work together. Okay, so both of you, Alec and Natalie, work together in the same team. Is that all right? Excellent. Good deal. Well, so let's get started with today's class. And today we are going to, first of all, we are going to try to do the resurrection of the geographical project. Okay, so in lesson 3, at the beginning of the class, there was one lesson where we talk about latitude and longitude and so on. And one of the assignments was you either wrote a paper on the concept of time and using the scriptures and everything, and several of you actually did that assignment. And the other activity that I had there in that same lesson was to use some manual method to figure out the latitude and longitude of the place where you live. Okay, and Jens Jorgensen very, very dutifully. Okay, Jens, are you here with us today? I don't see her in the list of attendees yet. Okay, but she submitted her assignment. Okay, and so she says, wow, this was super fun, a super fun lesson. It was fun trying to figure this stuff out. The answer I got for longitude was 112 and a half, and the answer I got for latitude was 37 and a half. The true answers were 108, okay, and latitude 37.34. So latitude, you see, almost exact, okay, very, very close. Longitude, a couple of degrees of difference, 4 degrees difference. Latitude is much harder to measure accurately. It's not easy. I have the room, they moved to another room. Okay, I think that Rome maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a very, very good result. Okay, I was actually expecting, and I would like if Jen comes join us for the class. If not, we are going to give her the opportunity at some other time to tell us how she did it. Okay, what is the procedure really? That is the most important part of this. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I figure out the latitude, how I came up with the latitude for the place where I'm at. Okay, and so Jens is a guy. Okay, see, I always get confused with these things online. Okay, all right. How would I know that Jens is a guy? I don't know. It's English, it gets me all confused. All right. Well, I'm glad that you know that Jens is a guy. So, Scandinavian names are tricky. Yes, yes, no kidding. All names are tricky, for me especially. So, yeah, yes, you have one too. But Annika seems more like a girl's name. So, and I'm glad that you sign as Annika now, so I don't have to figure out who's who. All right, so let me show you one method for measuring latitude using the sun to measure latitude at your location. Okay, so latitude, if you remember from the lesson where we did latitude, is the angle which ranges from 0 at the equator, okay, to 90 degrees at the poles, all right, both the south and the north poles. And the lines of constant latitudes are called parallels. These are because they are parallel to the equator. And they run east to west, okay, and they circle the equator, the lines of latitude. So measuring latitude is basically trying to measure how far, what's the angle between the equator, the center of the earth, and where you are at, okay? So again, here we have another picture, that kind of shows that angle. So it's basically looking at the angle here formed between the equator and the center of the earth and your location there on the surface, all right? So let's see. Okay, good deal. So the idea is here, how are we going to measure latitude? Okay. If you look, basically, during the equinox, which is September 21st and March 21st, that is the time where the tilt of the earth does not affect where the rays of the sun fall on the earth. The sun rays fall perpendicular here to the equator, okay, during the equinox, all right. Equi means equal, okay, and nox, I have no idea what it is, but basically the meaning of this word is that the equinox is the time of equal night and day, all right? For every part in the planet, all over the earth, you have 12 hours of daytime and 12 hours of nighttime during those 2 days. And Elizabeth, that is your birthday. Which one? The September 21st or the March 21st? So March 21st, excellent. So that is my mother is March 20th, so very, very close. So that is your birthday has an equal amount of day and night, okay? So during that time, during those 2 days particular, Nox is night. Okay, Emmeline tells me that Nox is night. Okay, so that makes sense probably in Latin, all right? And so equal night, okay, equal time of day and night is the equinox. So during this day, what happens is that if you have a stick on the ground or something vertical, parallel to the ground, the shadow, okay, of that, the angle basically between that stick and the shadow, the line of shadow, is going to be equal to the angle between the equator. Okay, so this angle here is going to be equal to this angle. And this angle here, the angle between the equator, the center of the earth, and where you are on the surface is the latitude by definition, okay? So the idea, one way to measure the latitude using the sun is using finding out what is the angle, okay, here of the shadow during the equinox time, during one of these 2 days, all right? And so that is basically what I did. Let's see this video, okay? All right, so now again I'm trying this again, so I'm going to make sure I have this set vertically, all right, and the measuring tape is there, and the shadow. Would be a lot easier if I were to have someone else helping me, but because I don't, okay, I have to do this by myself. So this is how the setup that I came up with. All right, let's see if I need to move this a little bit so the shadow is right on. I put the phone down here. Okay, let's see that again. Right, so the shadow is right there on the ruler, and I'm checking. So it's 49 inches and a quarter. Okay. So hold on, Sabrina here is asking, so you just put a stick in the ground on the equinox and just measure the angle? Well, so the thing is that it's not that easy to measure the angle just by itself. So what I'm actually going to measure is both the shadow and the length of the stick. And then using trigonometry, okay, and I'm going to show you how that works, I will find the angle, okay? So that is really how it is. But yes, I just use a stick, okay, on a sunny day, and it was September 22nd, okay? So I was 1 day off, but the difference is not much right there. And so I was just holding the stick, and you saw that I had a level, okay, in order to make sure that the stick was vertical, all right? So I needed to measure just exactly when the stick was vertical, what was the length of the shadow. So let's continue here with the video. Okay. So for that, let's see, yeah, 49 and a quarter the shadow there. So now I'm going to measure the length of the stick. All right, and that is 58 and 1/8. Okay, yeah, 58 and 1/8. All right, and 49 and a quarter. And this is September 23rd. So the first day of fall. So now then I'm going to do the calculation to figure out the angle of the sun and the horizon. Okay, we'll do that in the next video. Thanks. Okay, so that is basically what I did. So it was September 23rd. So this year, actually, the fall equinox was on September 22nd. So it was still just 1 day after, all right? So let's see how the calculations go. Have you done trigonometry in your math classes? Some of you may have already done trigonometry, others may not, okay? So trigonometry is one of the most useful disciplines in mathematics, okay? It's very, very useful. And it's basically the measurement of triangles, or most of them talking about right angle triangles. All right, so if we have, these are the many relationships that we can discuss, okay? So if we know, for example, the angle, okay, of a triangle and one of the sides, we can measure the other two sides and the other angle, okay? Or if we have two sides of a triangle, we can measure the angles and the third side, all right? So that is very, very useful because many times it's necessary to find out all the measurements of a triangle. Yeah, so this is Annika, this is very normal that many times we learn things, okay, in math or in school and everything, but we don't know how to put them together, okay? So this is one of the many applications of trigonometry that you will see, but it's very important, this one. Okay, so this is the situation that we have here in measuring the shadow. So the orange here is the shadow, okay? This one, so let's write it down, okay, shadow. Oh, okay, so it's kind of hard to write with the mouse, okay? And the red here is the stick. Okay, ooh, stick. Okay, I need to find some way to write better here. All right, so this is basically the situation. And what I need to measure is this angle here, the angle between the stick and the shadow. I do know the length of the shadow and I do know the length of the stick. That is what I did in the video, if you remember, okay? So let's go and then see the calculations, how they go. So the stick height was 58 and 1/8, so 58.125 inches, okay? The shadow length is 49 and a quarter, okay, so 49.25. All right, so if we are going to look here, when we see the orange, okay, over the red, opposite leg to the angle, opposite to the angle, to the leg adjacent to the angle, so the red one here, I'm going to be talking about finding here the tangent of the angle alpha, okay? And so that is what I'm going to do. So 49 and a quarter divided by 58 and 1/8, and it gives me that the tangent is 0.8473. Now I use the inverse relationship of the tangent to actually find what is the measurement of the angle, of the alpha angle. And it gives me that the angle is 40.2746 degrees. Okay? So how do you transfer, okay, degrees? Let's see this. How do you transfer degrees? Calculator. All right, so we're going to do this and have, let's see, I don't know if I can do the calculator on this. No, so I need to do it here. Hold on a second. Okay. So we have, let's do it again. So 49.25, 49 and a quarter divided 58.125 and 1/8. So that gives me the angle, okay? So I'm going to find the tangent of that, okay? Oh, that was the tangent, sorry. Let's do that again. So it's 0.8473, okay? And if I go to the inverse, so I press shift to get the inverse relationship, okay, and that gives me the angles in degrees. So this angle, the angle alpha, is 40.2746. If I want to translate that from degrees, decimal degrees, to minutes and seconds, then I say, okay, 40 is the number of degrees. So if we do that minus 40, then we get the decimal part. And we just multiply that by 60, because there are 60 minutes in 1 degree. Okay? And so that tells me, okay, so that is 40 degrees, 16 minutes. Okay? And how many seconds? I'm going to take away the 16 minutes and multiply that by 60 again, because there are 60 seconds in a minute. Okay, and it gives me 28 and a half, 29 seconds. Okay, so that is how I did the measurement. All right, so using this method, very, very simple, as you could see, I got that my answer was, my latitude was 40 degrees, 16 minutes, 28 seconds. Okay? And then, let's see, I went to Google Maps, okay, actually to Google Earth. Google Earth actually tells you that. And so I put my mouse over the exact place where I was, okay, which was this was a parking lot here in IKEA by Riverton, okay, so in Draper. So it was around this area, and I got that the latitude is 40 degrees, 31 minutes, okay, 2.9 seconds, okay, so my answer, 40 degrees, 16 minutes, 28 seconds, to 40 degrees, 31 minutes. So pretty close also, especially considering that I was doing this on my own and, you know, holding things here with a stick and so on. So the difference here is what? 15 minutes, okay? 15 minutes only. 1 minute, okay, of latitude, all right? Yeah, so you know all about IKEA. So 1 minute of latitude is about 1 nautical mile. So it is by definition one nautical mile. Okay, so a nautical mile is a little bit longer than a statute mile. All right, so if I put my you know, if my place where I did this was actually here, pretty much where the O of Riverton is, I was off by 15 miles, so I was probably around here measuring. So not too much really, okay? So probably more about here. So not too much really of error. This is the measurement error, the difference between my answer and Google's answer. Okay, so that is how you measure that. Now, the problem is that you can do that only with the days of the equinox. But what happens if you are not at the equinox time? So the solstice, the winter solstice, that is in December 21st, and that is winter for the northern hemisphere, okay, the sun is basically 23 and some degrees tilted, okay, the rays of the sun are this much tilted from the equator, okay. So if you have the stick on the same place, but you are on the winter solstice, your shadow is going to be is going to be a lot longer than before, okay, and that angle is going to be 23.5 degrees bigger, okay, than if it were directly at the equinox time. And similar to that, if you were on the summer solstice in June 21st, now the sun rays would be 23.5 degrees closer to you, so the shadow would be much smaller. Okay, so if you are measuring your latitude in between those times, you need to calculate how many degrees you are from the equinox time and between the equinox and the solstice time. Okay, and there are ways basically to extrapolate for that. All right. So I think that you are having a great conversation about IKEA. I'm actually very sorry that I even mentioned that. All right. So, yeah, you just need to find a sunny place. Okay. So if you are in a canyon, you have to actually find a sunny place to do this. All right. You actually also need to find a sunny day. Okay, there's also a way to do this using Polaris at night, using the northern star. Okay, Polaris. And with that one, you don't need to worry about what time of the year you are at. Okay, because Polaris is always pointing to the north. All right. And so again here, just to show you, kind of another way of how the sun looks like at different times of the year. So you would have that during summer, the sun looks higher in the sky. At the equinox, it looks exactly the degrees at which is higher is your latitude, really. And then in the winter solstice, the sun looks, closer to the horizon from wherever you are. Okay. So that is how, okay, so, oh, by the way, you need to do this, okay, if you're going to do this measurement, you also need to do it at noon, okay, when the sun is highest on the sky. And so that is another caveat. And I think that I don't know if I mentioned that in the video, but I was doing that at noon. So I drove from work to the parking lot, and I did all that and then came back to do it. So Jens, do you have a microphone available? I was showing the class before here your assignment that was very, very good and actually very accurate in your measurements. But I would like you to explain how did you come up with, what was your procedure for measuring your latitude and longitude? Okay, so I don't know if you have a microphone available, but I would love to hear that. I think that everyone in the class would like that. Okay. All right, you can unmute yourself, okay, and you can tell us how do you do it.
And can you hear me?
Yes,
All right, so what I did, we have this big map on our wall. And so I went to the map and I just figured out my location or the general area. The corner of Colorado is where I live, so they have the lines on the map, and I figured out longitude, and I went up and I looked, and I saw numbers, and I just kind of calculated how much in the middle that would be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would half that, and then I would just go the other way, and I'd figured one of them was just right on the longitude, and so that's just pretty much how I figured it out. It was pretty simple. I just went to the map and just figured out the lines and calculated it kind of in my head.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so you were using basically a chart, okay? A chart is a map with latitude and longitude coordinates, okay? So that is a very, very good way, and that is one of the useful ways of using maps, okay? So now the thing is that many times, most of the times, you actually don't know where you are. Okay, so if you are, let's suppose that you are, exploring something, or you are in the middle of the ocean. Okay, this was very, very important for navigators. So you have to actually, you are somewhere, okay, but you don't know exactly where. And so the idea was that you would use some method to figure out your latitude and longitude, and then use the maps in order to find that latitude and longitude, and then pinpoint, okay, I'm here in the map at this time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is great. Jens, very, very good job. Okay. So, and Annika, you said that your grandfather is a pilot, and so he uses charts all the time. He's a bit wary of the new technology. Frankly, most navigators use both. Okay, you should never rely just on the GPS technology, because sometimes things go down, or you run out of battery or something, and so most of the times, if you are actually navigating, whether on the sky or on the water or on land, if you're exploring, you would want to know how to find your latitude and longitude both ways, and then use charts for that. Okay, very good job, Jens. Excellent. Very, very nicely done. So the only suggestion that I have for the future for this type of assignments is so make sure that you describe the procedure, okay? So what you told us now about how you did it, going to the map and doing it that way, you need to explain that in the procedure, okay? So now the first part that I want you to do for the geography project, okay? So, no, you don't have to be sorry. This was good. Okay, very, very good. So the first thing that I want you to do for the geography project, we are going to resurrect here the geography project, is to measure your latitude, okay, using either the sun method or Polaris, or the star method, okay? So I want you to do this and find out what is your latitude. All right. So and then you can certainly check your measurement with a map, like Jens did, or with Google Earth, okay, like I did. But I want you to find out your latitude at your place using a manual method, similar to what I did, okay? And explain your procedure. You explain how you got the results, and then explain, check your result with the actual latitude of where you are at, and talk about why do you have some error. In all these things, there's always error, okay? That is very, very common. It's actually very expected to have error. I was actually rather surprised when I got my answer that my error was just, was so small, really, for a crude measurement, really, that I did all by myself and everything. Being only 15 miles off is not that much. You can certainly do a video, all right? Or you can write it out, however you want to do it. But if you do a video, I want you to include also all your calculations, all right? Either in the video or in the write out, okay? You need to do all your calculations, okay? So next Thursday, I'm going to show you, hopefully I can show you how to do the latitude using the star, using Polaris, okay? And you can submit this as part of your assignment for lesson 3. Some of you submitted the time assignment, and that is fine. I'm going to grade that as soon as I have a second. all right? So submit it there for lesson 3. Okay, if you did the time assignment, you can also submit this other one also on top of that. Okay, I'll give you credit for everything that you do. When is this due? Let's put it that it's due 2 weeks from now. Okay, is that fair? So in 2 weeks, okay, I'm going to check your submissions and everything, and we are going to show here in the class some of the best ones. All right, so be prepared for that. Okay. Good deal. This is all in preparation also for your project that you are going to be working also together. We are going to work pretty much on the same groups that you have for the science class. You will work with in the geography project. And the first thing really that we need is for you to measure your latitude. Okay? So measuring angles is going to be an important part of this. Okay? Sounds good? And then afterwards, we're going to measure longitude and so on. Okay, now in the 20 minutes that we have left, okay, so okay, Abigail, just find the latitude for now, okay? So next class, I'm going to show you how to find latitude using the star, using Polaris, all right? And then the next class, I'm going to show you how to do longitude. Longitude is a little trickier, okay? So, but I'm going to show you how to do longitude, and then we are going to have another assignment for you to find longitude manually. Okay? Everything all right then? So if you, of course, that you are not having Equinox in 2 weeks, but we are very close to the winter solstice or the summer solstice there in La Paz. So you are actually in summer, Annika. So I'm going to send you basically how many degrees do you need to correct, okay, your shadow. You basically need to correct your measurement of the degrees by the number of degrees that we are off from the solstice, the winter solstice, okay? So, okay, Annika, you got it. Good deal. Everyone is fine with that. Yeah, the easiest part is to measure it during the equinox. But of course, we are far from the equinox. We would need to wait until March. The other way is to do it using Polaris, because Polaris doesn't change with the tilt of the Earth. So that is kind of more constant, helpful. But Annika and Sam would be out of luck because they are in the southern hemisphere and they cannot see Polaris. And the Southern Cross is not very good really for measuring the angle, because the Southern Cross does not point to the celestial south exactly. Okay, does that make sense? Does this assignment count for this lesson's assignment? Yeah, probably. I'm going to actually make it count for this lesson assignments, and so submit it actually in this lesson's assignment. Okay, I'm going to write it up and put it for this lesson. Okay, and because this is kind of a little extra hard, we are going to let's do it for 50 points instead of 35. What do you think? Is that all right? So yes, Annika and Sam have a little bit of a disadvantage. They have to do it with the sun, and it's in summer. And they live in a canyon, okay? And they live in the Altiplano of Bolivia, so... Okay, good deal. Well, everyone liked the 50 points. Good deal, no problem. So I'm going to tell you now about something that is. Please read also. I don't know what that was about, but one of the things that in this lesson, in the lesson actually that we have for today, we were talking before about the boundaries between countries. Do you remember that? Okay, so yeah, you are in a canyon in the middle of the mountains. Holy cow, yeah. Well, you need to go to some place where you can see some shadow. So make it a family trip. So before we were talking, last time we were talking about boundaries of countries, and remember we talked about the European empires. I mentioned that one of the empires that happened actually not too long ago was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was not called an empire, but it was really an empire in all the sense of the word, okay? And so if you have boundaries, usually you need to have them defined somehow, okay? So you are at 11,600 feet above sea level or something like that. So that is like living on top of Timpanogos mountain here. Ha! That is something. I would love to visit La Paz, but someday. So whenever you have boundaries, you have to put some sort of indication of where the boundaries are. So here we have kind of a picture of a rock wall. This was one of the more common ways of defining boundaries. And this is called a stile, which is basically a ladder that goes both ways around a rock wall. Okay. Now, after World War II, there was a very interesting thing happen in the world. And I don't know how much you know about World War II history or Cold War history, but what happened was that the Germans were fighting both in Europe, and also they invaded Poland and they invaded Russia. And so the Russians, actually, that were part in that time of the Soviet Union, they fought against the Germans. The British and Americans, all the allies, also fought against Germany. And at the end of the war of World War II, Germany was basically divided into two parts. There was the Russian sector, East Germany, and the Western sector, okay, or the Allied sector, or West Germany, okay. So, yeah. So and you live in two countries that were very affected by that. When that's true, Nicola says that the German army froze pretty much, and that was how they lost. Because the Germans came during the summer, I think, of 1943, all right, and they tried to invade Russia. Well, the Russians basically waited them out, okay? They offer, of course, resistance, but they knew that winter was coming. And when winter came over Russia, the Germans were just decimated and they had to retreat. And so then the Russians advanced, and they advanced and took over several of the countries and half, the eastern part of Germany. Okay. Well, the Allies, after the war, they retreated and they let the German people be free and build up and everything. The Soviets didn't retreat really. And so they basically annexed all the countries that they had invaded during World War II, and they made them part of the Soviet bloc, okay, the Soviet bloc of countries, all right? And so Europe was basically divided between Western Europe and Eastern Europe or Soviet Europe, okay? and there was a big division between the two, politically and everything. The city of Berlin, which was in the eastern part of Germany, was divided itself, okay? The city itself was divided, and they had to pretty much provide provisions for the city. So there was a blockade that the Soviets put on the city of Berlin, and they didn't let anything come in or go out of the city of Berlin. So this is a map of how Germany was divided. You see the boundaries between that. And here you see even the boundaries in Berlin, in the city of Berlin. So you had one sector that was occupied by the Americans, okay, another sector that was occupied by the British, and another sector that was occupied by the French and the, and the other forces, okay. So the city of Berlin was actually blockaded, okay, and they didn't let anyone come in or out. In fact, so much that the Allies, especially the Americans, had to airlift and send cargo and food and provisions to the people in Berlin for several months, okay, in order for them to survive. This is the time where there was the member of the church that dropped candy to Berlin. I don't know if you remember the candy bomber, okay? So I got to tour the plane, the candy bombers, thanks to my pilot grandfather. Wow, that is awesome. Have you seen the movie Meet the Mormons? Okay, well, in that movie, one of the stories is about the candy bomber and the airlift of Berlin. I cried during that part. I thought that was one of the best parts, really, of the movie. And so the airlift really provided provisions to the Berliners, okay. In that time, it was really an amazing thing that happened, okay, to actually allow the people to survive during that time. So I want you to study that. There's a very good story about that in this the history.com, part of the History Channel, and I have a link there in the lesson for you to watch. Watch this, watch the videos in order to understand really the history of what happened during the Cold War and after the World War II. Eventually, the Soviets decided to build a wall around Berlin. And this wall was basically not to let the people of East Berlin, of the Soviet part of Berlin, to actually leave, to get out and cross to the other side. Okay, so these are some of the images of the Berlin Wall. And I grew up during the time of the Berlin Wall. Okay, yeah, it's really an amazing story. The Berlin Wall finally came down in 1989, okay? So that was the year that I got here to America, all right? So I want you to also study here the article on the Berlin Wall, the location of the wall. There are here some pictures. Let me see if I can. Okay, opa. I can go over here. So this is one of the checkpoints to cross between, the Soviet part of Berlin to the Allied part. This was a famous checkpoint, Charlie. Okay. this website has lots of pictures about the wall itself. Sometimes the wall was just a fence, but it was a barbed wire fence. And you see the post, okay, with people, with soldiers that were on the lookout to prevent people from crossing the wall, okay? This was a very, very real thing. And the people in East Berlin, they tried and they basically many times wanted to escape, but they couldn't escape because of the wall between their east part of Berlin and the west. Okay, so you see all the fences and the checkpoints. Of course, these pictures are taken from the west side. Okay, from the free side of Berlin, looking in to the other side. These are two soldiers from the east side of Berlin that basically crossed, and they were taking pictures of the guy taking pictures, okay, from the tower. The fence and the limits were all the way into the beach, into the Baltic Sea, okay, to the limit the areas. So very, very interesting thing that happened. Here, very briefly, okay. Yes, you can find now pieces of the wall. I actually had a piece of the Berlin Wall that a friend of mine gave to me, and it came all the way from Berlin. So what happened was that finally during the 80s, Ronald Reagan fought against the Soviet Union, and he basically was the one that actually convinced the people to tear down the wall. And let's go to that part. This is a speech about that very thing. Okay, so this is a famous speech.
Now the Soviets themselves may, in a limited way, be coming to understand the importance of freedom. We hear much from Moscow about a new policy of reform and openness. Some political prisoners have been released. Certain foreign news broadcasts are no longer being jammed. Some economic enterprises have been permitted to operate with greater freedom from state control. Are these the beginnings of profound changes in the Soviet state? Or are they token gestures intended to raise false hopes in the West or to strengthen the Soviet system without changing it?
So during the 80s, the Soviets started actually opening up, okay, letting some things happen that they had not allowed before. This was what he's referring to, okay. No, the Annika, the video that you are talking about, okay, is John F. Kennedy, okay, and you can find that one in the history.com website. That is another speech that John F. Kennedy gave in the 60s, actually at the beginning of the building of the Berlin Wall. This is in the 80s, okay, at the end of the Cold War. Let's keep listening.
We welcome change and openness, for we believe that freedom and security go together, that the advance of human liberty can only strengthen the cause of world peace. There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev.
So here Reagan is talking, he's talking to the German people. He is actually right there by the wall in Berlin, in the west side of Berlin, and he's basically telling Gorbachev, who was the prime minister of the Soviet Union at the time, is, it's fine to do these token gestures, but there is something that you can actually do that will be a sure sign that you are serious about freedom, liberty, and peace. Okay, so listen to what he's going to ask.
If you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
He's referring to this gate here in the background, that is the main gate between East and West Germany, and is divided and closed by the Berlin Wall.
Mr. Gorbachev, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Can you see he's really asking him there, if you are serious about peace, just tear down the wall.
I understand the fear of war and the pain of division that afflict this continent, and I pledge to you my country's efforts to help overcome these burdens. To be sure, we in the West must resist Soviet expansion. So we must maintain defenses of unassailable strength. Yet we seek peace, so we must strive to reduce arms on both sides. Beginning 10 years ago, the Soviets challenged the Western Alliance with a grave new threat. Hundreds of new and more deadly SS-20 nuclear missiles, capable of striking every capital in Europe. The Western Alliance responded by committing itself to a counter-deployment. Unless the Soviets agreed to negotiate a better solution, namely the elimination of such weapons on both sides, for many months, the Soviets refused to bargain in earnestness. As the alliance in turn prepared to go forward with its counter-deployment, there were difficult days of protests like those during my 1982 visit to this city. And the Soviets later walked away from the table. But through it all, the alliance held firm. And I invite those who protested then, I invite those who protest today to mark this fact. Because we remained strong, the Soviets came back to the table.
Okay, so this is a historical moment in history, really. After this speech that Ronald Reagan gave, not too long after that, the Soviets actually open up and they tear down the wall, literally. Okay, and it was just an amazing thing to see. I remember seeing the pictures, okay, of the people tearing down pieces of the wall, breaking it down, opening it up, and for the first time in 40 years, the people of East Germany could actually walk freely to the other side of their own city. Can you imagine that? That was an amazing, amazing event, really. Okay. And that was really possible because of leadership. Okay. People really worked very hard in order to accomplish that. One of the people that worked for this in the background actually was President Monson. He visited East Germany, the saints that were behind here the wall, many times during those 40 years. And he became actually a trusted ambassador of the church to the German people, not only to the people, to the members of the church, but also to the authorities of the German government. Okay. And because of that, the German government allowed the church to still function during all those years of the Cold War. Okay. And eventually, when the wall came down, they were able to send missionaries to East Berlin and to all the other parts. So this is the extent of the wall around Berlin, the different checkpoints and towers and passes, but no one could really pass between them. All right. Okay. Yeah. So if you can find that picture, Jens, and you can send that to me, that would be very, very cool. Okay. So this is a piece of the Berlin Wall, all right, a picture of that. I had a chunk of this concrete also, a historical thing, really, that the people finally were able to move freely in their own country. Yeah, and Elder Uchtdorf was really by very little he was able to actually escape from the Soviet part of Germany. He was in East Germany at the beginning of the war, and I don't know if you remember that video where he tells about him going with his family. Okay, so that is the class for today, guys. Okay, I would like to finish with a prayer. Madeline, I don't know if you have a microphone available, if you would like to pray for us. And if you can pray also that we may be able to continue building bridges and tearing down walls that separate people around the world, so we can continue preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. That would be excellent. Okay. Do you have a microphone? Or I see probably Rodrigo, do you have a mic available?
I have one.
Okay. Would you like to pray for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are so very grateful for this lesson and for all the time that to prepare a lesson for us. And we ask you to bless that we will always stay true to the gospel and always remember and help everyone, and to always keep love in our daily lives, and always remember what Jesus Christ would do. And these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, it is really crazy to think that these things happen, but they did happen, and it's important for you to know these things. Okay, so thank you.